Hello, little magical gems. Welcome back. I'm going to talk to you about how you start becoming a witch. What does that even mean? What do you need to get started? And all of the great things that come with being on your witchy path, your spiritual journey, etc. The very first thing I want to express is that becoming a witch is all about choice, and it's all about you doing what's best for you. Your spiritual path will not look like anybody else's because it's yours. It's going to be specific to who you are, what your values are, what interests you, what you're passionate about, and it's okay to do things your own way. You are the magic. At the end of the day, all of the tools, all of the things, crystals and all of that stuff, I mean, they're great. We love them, but they're not necessary for you to start practicing. And essentially, none of those things really are going to work without you because you are the magic. So keep that in mind. Your intentions are everything. Your intentions are what makes things work. That's how you put things in motion. That's the way that this whole entire practice operates, is by you putting your intention into spell work or into different types of crafts, your enchantment of objects. I mean, literally the whole entire thing of being a witch is centered around you and your intentions. So whether or not you have all these things, you even have a desire to know all these things I'm about to tell you, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the earth is magical. The earth has magic energy within it. And if at the end of the day, you would rather just go out into the earth and find different things that call to you and work that into your practice, that's fine. If you just want to manifest things and you don't want to use crystals, you don't want to use herbs, you don't want to cast spells, that's also fine. Your path is your path. So just keep that in mind. So while you are embarking on this journey of tapping into your spirituality, learning about witchcraft, remember that your own research is going to be your best resource, okay? You actually hitting the books, and I do mean actual physical books. I have a video on my page with some great options for beginners if you'd like to go check that out. It covers a lot of different topics, and I feel like you will find what you need to get started there. But basically, you cannot rely on other people, even me, to tell you what you need to know. You really need to make sure that you are cross-checking things that you learn on the internet, even the Google. Like, you really need to dig a little bit deeper than just doing a Google search or Pinterest or TikTok or YouTube even, because you want to make sure that what you're utilizing in your practice is actually what your intention is. You really want to make sure that you are fully aware and confident in the properties that you're enchanting into different things, so that it's not contradictory to what you're trying to do. So I always stress, make sure you actually do your own research. This is a process. This is not a, I lit a candle, I got a tarot deck, and I know all the things. You're learning. It's basically like going through college. And I know that sounds crazy, but there's not one witch in the world that knows everything, okay? And that's not the goal either. The goal isn't to know absolutely everything. The goal is to find the things that interest you, the things that motivate you, the things that get you excited about your craft, and learn as much as you possibly can about them. And eventually your knowledge will just grow over the years. So don't put a whole bunch of pressure on yourself to know everything, to get all the things. Just kind of ease your way into it and kind of feel out what makes sense to you. What are you gravitating towards? Listen to your own intuition. So I had mentioned this on my page before. Again, I have another video if you need to go reference it, but protection, okay? It doesn't matter if you are the type of person who doesn't intend on buying all of the things. You can use protection magic in anything, because again, this is about your intention. So do your research. If you have a plant that you really love, maybe not one that you really love, but you have a plant and you research the properties of that plant, come to find out one of the properties is protection. And when you're doing your searches, you're going to want to look for spiritual or metaphysical properties of items and herbs and all those things, because there's going to be medicinal meanings that might change when it comes into spirituality. So just make sure that you are getting good information, and you could utilize a plant to protect you, for example. But again, protection is necessary because you're opening yourself up to different types of energies, entities, other spiritual people. I mean, it's almost like once you tap in a little bit, it's like all the things that you just don't even know are around you are like, oh, she's here. Let's see what she's up to, you know. So just keep in mind, you know, even if you've never done anything before and you're simply just researching, you're on the radar, because they're just waiting for you to, you know, start getting your hands dirty. And I don't say that to scare you, I say that to prepare you, because the worst thing that you could ever do is start messing around and not have protection up, and that's when the bad things start to happen. So let's not do that, okay? And protection is just a great way for you to just start, because it's protection, you know, and there's a lot of different ways that you can implement that into your spiritual practice. So that would be my go-to when you first get started. So the next thing that witches will talk about is meditation. And I know that spiritual people do meditation and witches also do meditation. And there's a difference between a spiritual person and a practitioner. We're not going to talk about that in this video, but if you would like more information on that, please comment down below and I will make a video about it. But meditation is a way for you to connect. That's a way for you to open yourself up, get yourself grounded, have yourself in a higher elevation, a higher vibration. And that's when you can start to see and hear and feel things and start to understand what some of your clairs are, and maybe learn about some of your ancestors, your spirit guides. It's really like you kind of opening up the door where you're kind of in a state where you can start accepting some things that maybe like in the mundane 3D we wouldn't necessarily pay that much attention to. So get really comfortable with meditation, however you want to do it. There's a lot of different techniques. It's not always sitting with your legs crossed with your hands up on your knees and listening to somebody tell you how to breathe. That's a great way to do it, but there's other ways that you can do it if that's just not something that aligns with you. So again, do your research. But meditation is going to be necessary, because when we talk about your intentions, that's based off of your intuition. And in order to tap into your intuition and strengthen it, because it's like a muscle, you're going to have to learn how to put yourself in a meditative state so that you can hear the messages, you can receive the downloads, so that you can expand and explore more parts of your own spiritual path. Okay, so let's get into some of the tools, more fun stuff, right? Okay, an altar. You may hear about people talking about their altars. You may see some really great extravagant ones on the TikTok. I know I'm jealous of a lot of people's great altars with the statues and the big candles and all that stuff. But an altar really should be based upon a place where you can work. This is like your sacred space where you're going to start crafting things. It might just be a place where you sit down with your notebook and you kind of journal what you thought about or what you saw or what you felt in your meditation. You might do your manifestations there to start. And it's just kind of like your sacred space where it should just have your energy. It should be a place where nobody or anything else is going to kind of like invade that space. If you're somebody who can't, you know, necessarily put out a table or even have a shelf out, you know, maybe you're a little bit more in the broom closet, or you're just not ready for that to be out on display, which is totally understandable. There's no shame. You can get like a little box and start putting your little things in there, and then maybe take it outside with you, which is a great place to connect with nature and to really engulf yourself in the elements. It's an amazing place to do meditation as well. but you could pack a little box or even a bag if, you know, whatever your pleasure is, okay? And that could be your starting altar. Something that nobody else would even know was an altar because it's just a box. Here's an example of my working altar. I'm showing it to you because I'm actually redesigning it. I'm getting a new table, so this is not actually my working altar at the moment, but at one time, this is what it looked like. And this is just to give you a nice idea of what it could be. There's not a lot of working space on here because I kind of just put some things on there just to give you some ideas, but I love a good trinket box because you never know. Like, you could put your lighter in little drawers. You could put manifestations there. You can keep some herbs or crystals or whatever have you. It's important to represent the elements. In my opinion, it's not like a necessary you have to, because again, like I said, everybody's journey is different. But I personally think that it's good to have a representation of all of the elements: air, fire, water, and earth. So personally, I like to have at least one thing that's going to represent each of those things on the altar. I hope this gives you a good idea of a way to start and, you know, some things that you could think about. I also like to put spell jars and spell candles on my altar to continue to rejuvenate that energy. And that's just something that is a preference. So while we're talking about nature, let's talk about the elements. So we have water, which represents the west. We have fire, which represents the south. Air represents the east, and earth represents the north. If you ever watched a craft, you already know. If you haven't, you should. But those are, you know, your basic elements. And then spirit would be the center element, which is you, is your guides, it's your ancestors, it's the whole connection with this realm and the other realms. So basically, when we're talking about elemental magic, this is when I was referring to not buying all the things at the metaphysical store and just kind of going outside and forging your own materials. So you basically learn about plants and different types of rocks, and you can create your own water, and, you know, you can learn about trees, whatever have you, if that's the way that you would prefer to go, and be a little bit more natural with it and more personal, because you're actually out there in nature and you are finding things that speak to you. When it comes to doing forging, I did not know this when I first started, so I kind of just like would go on walks and find cool things and just take them. But all of the elements are spirits. So you going out and grabbing like a bunch of flowers or something, you really should be offering them something. I mean, it could be you just sing them a little bit of your favorite song. um, Same thing with the trees. Like, trees have a spirit, so you don't just go pulling things off of them. Talk to the tree, get to know the tree, build a relationship with the tree. Ask the tree, is it okay if I borrow something from you? And maybe you leave them a little offering. It could be, I don't know, sugar water, it could be moon water, it could be whatever. And when you get more advanced into your practice, you'll start to understand, and you'll actually start to feel like what is yes, what is no. It takes some time, but if that's the avenue that you feel pulled to, then you're going to have to practice so that you can start to really understand what the messages are coming from these different types of spirits. The same thing with the ocean. You know, we love to go collect seashells and things like that, and that's great, but don't take anything if you're not going to leave anything. That's kind of just a rule of thumb. If you're going to take something, ask, and also make sure you leave something. A great book that I did not mention in my previous video because I didn't have it yet is called Earth Magic. So this is the book. It's absolutely gorgeous. The illustrations are amazing. And if elements is where you want to start, I highly recommend this book. It has so much information. It has more information than just the elements, but it literally teaches you so much, and it's a really beautiful book, and it's not that expensive. I think it was less than $20, maybe like $15. Okay, next. moon cycles. So moon cycles is not necessary to understand, to learn, to know, but it's actually kind of cool to know about it at least a little bit, because you're gonna hear people talk about the full moon and the new moon and this and that and this zodiac sign and yada yada yada, and you're gonna want to know more about it once people start talking about it, if you haven't already gotten curious. I personally have a moon calendar app that I reference, and it does like my horoscope for my sun and my moon, and then the zodiac that the moon is in, and then it gives you a description of what that moon means. And really, there's a lot of different ways that you could utilize this information, but one great way is you will know what types of spells are appropriate during certain moon stages, and you don't have to do this. It's up to you. But if you want that extra added oomph of energy, then you might want to. You can make full moon water, which is great for releasing. So let's say that you collect some water, you put it outside in a glass jar, you let it charge under the full moon for a few hours, bring it back in before the sun comes out, and then you can utilize that in your craft, which is great if you're not really trying to spend money. That's kind of like a free way to charge some water. Same thing with the new moon. The new moon's about manifestations, new beginnings, and you would have that water. Make sure you label it, put the date, and put what type of water it is, because you'll be like me and have jars and be like, I think that's what I thought it was, and then not know, and now I have to get rid of it because I don't want to be using solar eclipse water when I think I'm using full moon water. That would be bad, you know? So that's a good way to start. And you don't have to get super deep into things. It kind of will just kind of come to you naturally as you go along in your practice. But knowing how the moon kind of sheds, I don't know if that's like the right word, but the way that the moon cycles kind of work, it will start to align, and you'll start to understand like how you feel, the way that the energy is affecting you. You'll start to kind of make the connections between, you know, when it's good to do certain different workings and things like that. So it's just a good thing to know. And most books, pretty much every book I own, even books that have nothing to do with the moon cycles, have the moon cycles in them. So just saying. The next thing is divination. You probably have heard of tarot cards. I hope that you have. Tarot cards are not the only type of divination, so I'm going to give you a couple of examples. But basically, divination is a way for you to communicate. This is your, you know, come to my space and let's chat. This is a way for you to start communicating with your spirit guides, your ancestors, deities if you choose to work with them. It's also your way to kind of start building a little bit of your intuition, because in order to use divination, yes, you can know what all the meanings are, but for you really to get the depth of the story or whatever it is that they're trying to tell you, you really have to tap into your intuition. Divination is also necessary to know some sort of divination, whether it's a pendulum, whether it's tarot cards, runes, scrying, what have you. You kind of need to find something that works for you in order to really practice safely in your craft. I say this because technically, before you go do anything as far as casting spells and things like that, you're supposed to divinate on it. You're supposed to ask spirit if this is for your highest good. Now, I will say there are some people out here, chaos witches or whatever you want to call them, that just don't care, and they just do what they want and they deal with the consequences as they come. If that's you, again, no judgment. You do you. It's your journey. It is what it is. But if you're brand new, I mean, you don't need to ask spirit if you should be doing protection, because that's kind of like a duh. But you should probably have even just, like I said, a pendulum. Like, this is not a real crystal. It's just a gem on a string, but it gets the job done. It works. It You know, it is a pendulum. So it doesn't have to be anything super fancy. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Pendulums usually are not that much money, but they answer yes or no questions. They're super beginner friendly, and they are fairly accurate. That's why a lot of people will say you should have some other form of divination that you actually have to learn. You actually have to be skilled in it and take the time to really understand it. And then a pendulum's kind of like clarifying, like, oh, did I understand this correctly? You know, what, you know, just a little bit of clarification on top of doing tarot, runes, or scrying or something like that. But again, this is all like a muscle. The more you build it, the better you are at it. So we talked a little bit about a spiritual team. So pretty much your ancestors are going to be the first spirits that you're going to want to connect with because it's your blood. Not everybody works with their ancestors. I personally think it's kind of silly not to, because again, they're your blood. There's controversy, like, is your grandmother that passed away an ancestor? Well, yeah, but how long ago did she pass? There's a lot of different questions about it, but what I always say is do what feels right to you. If you want to set up an altar for a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle or somebody that is part of your bloodline that passed away, and they didn't just recently pass away, so like let's give them like 3 years. That's should be more than that, but let's just say at least like 3 years. You know them, you knew them here in this realm. So that's kind of like a good avenue for you to set up an altar, put their picture on it. Don't put anybody else's picture on their altar, especially if they're living. But put their picture on it, put a candle, put, you know, their favorite flower, whatever have you. Think about what represents them, what represents your relationship, and put that on an altar for them, and then just start talking to them. And it's a good way for you to build your clairs. It's a good way for you to build your intuition. It's also a great way for you to have an avenue into speaking with spirit. Your spirit guides will come to you. Another reason why divination is kind of important, because you might start feeling, you know, like a coolness, and you're like, is that a spirit? Go get your pendulum. Is it a spirit? And then eventually you'll just start to know like how they show up for you. You know, you might smell somebody's perfume or cologne or something, and it's like they're letting you know they're here. But when it comes to spirit guides, they're not always people that you know, so that's a little bit more complicated. Of course, you can go to a practitioner and ask, you know, for messages from your spirit guides. I do tarot, so like that's something that I would do. But you should be able to differentiate those things for yourself at some point, so just keep that in mind. But basically, these are the people that are the spirits that are going to be on your team, right? So when you need some guidance, you're going to go to them. When, you know, you feel like you're in search of something and you don't really know what it is, and you know you need some clarity on something, that's who you're going to talk to. We're also going to put this in here that not all ancestors are made the same, okay? And I'm saying that in the nicest way I possibly can. So when you do reach out, I would suggest your highest elevated ancestors, because you want the people that have your best interest at heart, the people who really want to see you win. And it's just kind of a formality to protect yourself. Not to say that we're going to shun anybody, because you never know when you might need somebody that, you know, like that crazy auntie, okay? You never know. But when you're looking for guidance towards your highest good, that's where we're going to go. And then your higher self is also part of that team. Your higher self is the goal, basically. When it comes to spirituality, I mean, you'll hear people talk about elevating to their higher selves all day long, because that's essentially the goal, is that we are clearing ourselves and healing ourselves so that we can elevate to our highest version of ourselves. One other thing that you might be interested in learning, and I do think that having just like a basic understanding of how this works, is the wheel of the year. So the witch's wheel is different than our typical calendar. You will hear people talk about spring being the actual new year, which makes sense, doesn't it? Because that's when things bloom. But believe what you want, but that's kind of how things go. So like you'll hear things like Mabon and Samhain and summer solstice, and you'll hear all these different types of things. So that's basically what the wheel of the year will teach you, is when they are, what the practices and traditions are, how you can implement them into your own practice and things like that. And it's really just about how much you feel invested to learn and engage in these things, but it's worth mentioning because it's something that you probably are going to come across, and it's at least good to know, like, the bare minimum. Okay, so some things that you guys are probably a lot more familiar with. So crystals. Crystals are earth, okay? They're part of the earth. They're found in the earth. Crystals have all different types of meanings. They come in all different shapes, sizes, colors. They're gorgeous. We love them. You can utilize them in so many different ways. You can use them for protection. You can use them for confidence. You can use them for money. You can use them in all different types of ways if that's something that you feel called to. I feel like when people go into the metaphysical stores and they see all the crystals, sometimes it can be a little intimidating. And as a beginner, I would suggest that you should be looking for protection crystals if you choose to incorporate them into your practice, because that's going to really be the most helpful to you at the very beginning. And it's really easy to find a crystal that you like, let's say black tourmaline, and you take it home and you cleanse it. And we're going to talk about cleansing in a second. And then you might sleep with your crystal. You might take it with you everywhere. Kind of just like exchange energy with your crystal, and then you can ask it to protect you, and then you just take it with you in your purse and you have a protection crystal. It's really that simple, and they're just a lot of fun. Also, with crystals, you could do grids and you can use them in your spell work. So they're very multi-purpose tool to utilize in your practice. The same thing with herbs. So herbs, you can grow them yourself if you want. I mean, if you got a green thumb and that's what you want to do. I'm not that person. I wish I was, but I'm not. But you could do that, which would make it even better because then it's really personal. You like grew it from a seed. Like that's a commitment right there. But anyway, so herbs are typically used in different types of spells. Herbs can also be protective, so you could go and get a whole bunch of rosemary and tie them up, kind of like this bundle that I have here. Eucalyptus is also protective. You see people with eucalyptus in their showers. Like, there's reasons, there's methods to this madness, honey. And you could have those in your house as your protection. You don't have to go buy a whole bunch of things. Honestly, when it comes to herbs, you probably already have things in your kitchen that you could utilize if you wanted to start doing any type of spell work, or you just want to kind of learn and just kind of see what you have, and then look up the spiritual properties of what you have in your spice cabinet, and just kind of ease your way into it. Don't feel the need to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on things that you don't necessarily even need to know how to use yet, right? So basically with cleansing, so I have incense right in there. You can use smoke incense. You can use smoke cleansing to cleanse your materials, cleanse yourself. You can use water. You can use sound cleansing, so a bell, sound bowls. You can even clap. I mean, the world is your oyster. Whatever you need to do. So if incense isn't your thing, that's fine. There are other ways for you to cleanse, but cleansing is necessary. You need to cleanse your space. You need to cleanse yourself. You need to cleanse all of your objects. Like, as soon as you get yourself anything, you need to cleanse it and get any energy that does not belong to you off of it, any energy that's not for your highest good off of it. And you can cleanse yourself in the shower. You can cleanse yourself with selenite. I mean, there's just so many possibilities. Do your research. But it's necessary. Cleansing is a necessary thing, okay? Protection and cleansing, they're necessary. They're for your best, they're for your highest good. I'm just saying. The next thing is candles. This is where color magic is going to come into play. You can utilize it in different ways as well, but just to just to put it out there, typically color magic and candle magic goes hand in hand. I have a whole video about color magic that you can reference if you would like. And candles, you can do spells with those, you can do rituals with them, you can set up protection with them, you can do a whole bunch of different things with candles, and they're just fun to have and, you know, kind of experiment with different types of spells. So candles are definitely a witchy thing. We love us some candles. If candle magic is not your jam, it's not my preferred go-to, to be honest with you. You have jars that you could use. So you can, you know, make a money jar, and you would cleanse it and put your money herbs in there, your money crystals in there, and you could burn like a green or gold candle and seal the jar and then put it on your altar, and, you know, whatever you choose to do. But jars, typically witches are the type of people that when the spaghetti sauce is out, we're rinsing out the jar and we're keeping it because we're going to fill it up with water and put it out under the moon. That's us. Yes. And you can also make sun water. It's the same idea. So you would just put the water out under the sun for a few hours, and then you have charged sun water. Look into the properties of what you might want to use that for, but just throwing that out there as well. Okay, I've been talking for a really long time. Let's just wrap this up. The last thing I'm just going to mention is astrology. I think that a lot of people get really attracted to zodiacs and astrology and things like that, and that's kind of what ends up getting them into this arena of spirituality and witchcraft. And so if that's something that does interest you, totally go and do some research, get some books, you know, find out your top 3, your sun, your moon, your rising. What does that mean? What does that mean about you? You know, allow yourself to really just dive deeper into astrology as opposed to just reading your horoscope every month, you know? And some people really love this, some people it confuses, some people just don't care, some people don't even believe in it. Like, it's really up to you. It's really truly up to you. So at the end of the day, if you want to be a witch, you're already a witch because you want to be one. Do your own research. Make sure that you are setting up protections before you get dabbling into anything. I can't stress that enough. And I hope that this was helpful. If there's anything that you don't understand, feel free to ask any questions down below. I had a lot of fun making this video. This is really actually nice to like kind of go through the things because it's been a while for me. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time.